Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to pick up where we left off with the auth code along, not code alone. You never code alone. You have me here. So code along, part 3. Now we get to the meat of authentication. We're going to start by adding these sign up routes, register routes, and the register form, and making sure that by the end of this video, we should be able to sign up for our application. We won't be able to sign out, we won't be able to log in, but we'll be able to sign up. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we need to discuss are the routes that we need to add. And before I do that, I'm just going to add a little divider here because we do have a lot of content up top that just says routes. And I'll make this with our little equal signs just to make it clear that all routes go below this line. Okay, so we have our get slash and we have the secret route. Now down here, let's add in our auth routes. And to review the routes that we need, I'm actually going to go to the working version of this app, stunning homepage, and I'm going to click on register. Notice that the URL is /register and we see a form. So we have a get route /register that will show us the form to actually sign up. And then if we inspect this form, you'll see that it's sending a post request to /register, post/register. We don't have to call it /register. You'll see things like sign up or registration. It can be whatever you want, but register is good for us. So we'll go back to our app.js and we need to add those two routes in. And I'll start with an app.get /register. And again, the point of this is just to show the form. So show sign up form. Okay, so app.get /register, and then our callback in here, request and response, just like that. And we'll do res.render, and we'll call our template register. And then the next logical thing to do would be to create the register form. So we'll do a touch views /register.ejs, and then we'll open the same file. And inside of here, we'll start with a simple, let's just say sign up form and save. And let's make sure we can see that. So start the server. Then we'll go to our app here, go back to the root path to start. And now let's go to /register. And I get sign up form. Great. Now let's add in a form. And our form needs to have two inputs, one for username, one for password. So we'll start by defining a form, and we'll come back and add the method and action. We'll start with an input. Both are type text, although we can make the password input type equals password, which is actually a better idea. So input type equals text, placeholder equals username, just like that. And then I'll just duplicate that, and I'll do input type equals password, and placeholder will be password. And save. And then let's add in a submit, and we can either do input type equals submit, or I prefer a button tag. Either one will work. As long as the button is at the end of the form, it will automatically submit the form. Okay, so submit, and then we have our input type equals text, input type equals password. And we can start by just taking a look at this, and we see our form, but we're missing two crucial things. First of all, the form doesn't go anywhere, and even if it did submit somewhere, it wouldn't send either of these items because we don't have the name attributes. So we need to add name equals username and name equals password. Just like that. And we'll save. Now if we take a look at the form, nothing should look different, but it's now almost set up. Now we need to add in the information for the form tag where we have action and method. So the action is going to be /register also, but we're going to send it as a post request. And we don't have that route yet. So if I went and filled out the form right now, if I refreshed and filled the form out, it would just hang and then eventually time out because we don't have a post route /register. And this can be called anything, of course, but it's conventional to name it the same thing as the get route /register. So let's do the same thing. And this route will actually be responsible for handling user sign up. And we'll do an app.post/register function request response. And in here, we'll add all the logic. To start, we'll just do a nice res.send register post route, just to make sure that it's connected okay. And if we restart the server and go back, refresh the page, fill out some random data, and hit submit, we should see register post route. There we go. So that means that our form is submitting to the right place. We're hitting this. Now we get to the fun part, which is where we actually handle the user sign up. About 10 new lines that you haven't seen most of. So I'll start by writing out the syntax, and then I'll pause and go over every line and what it does. And the first thing we actually need to do, which is a review, is we need to add in body parser and configure it because we're taking data from a form. This form is sending data in the body, and we want to be able to say request.body.username, request.body.password. Right now, those will be empty. So up top, we just need to do an app.use body parser dot URL encoded, and then we add in that extended true. And that's another one of those lines that you just get used to typing. We need it anytime we're going to be using a form and posting data to a request. Okay, so that's done now. So we should be able to get request.body.username and .password, which will contain the username and password from the form that the user is trying to sign up with. So now we're back to the logic, and I'm going to type a few lines as I mentioned and then explain them afterwards. So user.register, and then inside of user.register, we're going to pass in new user, and into new user, we're going to pass in username is equal to request.body.username. But we don't add password into this new user. We're actually going to add it after we create the new user, request.body.password, comma, and then we're going to add a callback function, error, and then user. And then we'll open that up. Okay, so let's talk about what we've done so far. We make a new user object that isn't actually saved to the database yet. It's a new user, and we only pass in username. And the reason that we do that is that we don't actually save the password to the database. That's not really a good idea. And I'll show you what we actually save instead once we get something in a database, but it's not the password. So what we do is we pass the password as a second argument to user.register. And user.register will take this new user that has a username, and then it will hash that password, which basically means that it turns it into this huge string of numbers and letters, and it stores that in the database. So we pass it the user object that we want to create, and then we pass the password separately. And then if everything goes well, it will return a new user that has everything inside of it. It has username, and then it has the hashed password as well. So let's see if that worked. And inside of here, we'll add our simple if error, and we'll do a console.log error. And then we'll also do a res.render the form again, just like that. And if there isn't an error, then we have another line to do, which is passport.authenticate local. And again, I'll explain this afterwards. Request response function. And inside of here, we're going to redirect to the secret page. So this will happen once the user has been created and there's not an error. If there is an error, we're going to render the register page. And that's why we have return right here. It will just short circuit everything. And if there's not an error, we're going to run passport.authenticate. So this line here, passport.authenticate, will actually log the user in. It will take care of everything in the session. It will store the correct information. It will run the serialize user method that we specified here. And then we're specifying that we want to use the local strategy. And in the future, if we wanted to use another strategy and we had it installed, we could change that to be Twitter or Facebook. And there are other things we need to do. We have to sign up and get credentials on Twitter and Facebook, and we have to register our apps. So it's more complicated. But as far as the logic in Passport is concerned, we can just swap things in and out. And there are some small tweaks that we do need to make. But generally, Passport makes it really easy for us to swap out different strategies. So we're going to use local. And this, again, is just going to actually log the user in. And once the user has been logged in, we're going to redirect to the secret/secret. And that's just a personal choice. We could go back to the home page, the root, but the /secret is what we're all here for. So once we sign up, once we register, we should be then taken to /secret unless there's a problem, and then we'll go back to the registration form. So let's test this out. Make sure we don't have any syntax errors. Looks good. Now let's go to our app and refresh the page, and let's sign up. So I'm going to create an account as Colt, and my password will just be password, and we'll hit submit, and we get to the secret page, which is good news. But to really make sure that it worked, let's stop the server and let's actually open up Mongo. And I'm going to connect to my database, so I'll do show DBs, and the database is auth demo app, so I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to look at the collections, show collections, and then we're going to db.users.findAll, db.users, and you can see, let me make this a little bit bigger, we have a single user from when I just signed up, and there's a lot of information in here. Well, there's really not a lot, there's only a few pieces, but it looks like a lot. Most importantly, we have username right here, username Colt. That's the one piece that we specified that looks normal to us. And then there are these things, salt and hash. And I talk a lot more about these in the authentication from scratch unit, so we're not going to go into much detail. All that I'll mention about it for now is that notice our raw password, the word password in my case, isn't stored in the database at all. What we're storing is this crazy hashed version, and then this other thing called salt that will help us unhash this. And by helping us, I mean that it's all taken care of by the Passport local Mongoose package that we installed and we configured as a plugin, which we did right here. So that takes care of everything from the hashing to the salting to storing things in the database. All that we had to do was this simple line. I'll resize this again. User.register, and we pass in a new user with a username. And then it takes care of everything else. We give it the password from the form, but we never save it to the user. Instead, it handles everything, and it never saves a password at all. It's actually saving the hashed version. Okay, so let's get out of Mongo now. And we now have registration working. The very last thing that we could do is open up the index page, or the home page, res.render home. So let's do C9 views/home, and we'll just add in a link. So we'll add an li here, and this link should go to the register page. So it will be an anchor tag with href equal to /register, and we'll just add sign up inside the text. So now if we start the server, let's clear all this away. Node app.js, and we visit our app, and we go to the home page. We now have a sign up link where we can go to sign up. Great. So we covered everything I wanted to cover in this video. In the next video, we'll work on the login functionality.